There is an island smaller than Switzerland that the entire modern world depends on. And two superpowers are preparing to fight over it. It makes 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. Without it, no new phones, no new cars, no artificial intelligence, no advanced weapons. China claims it as sovereign territory. The United States has been arming it for decades. Neither side will back down. And the window for a peaceful resolution is closing. You use products from this island every single day. And you almost certainly had no idea how fragile it really is. This is Taiwan. And it is the most dangerous place on Earth. Start with the basic facts. Taiwan has 23 million people. A thriving democracy. Its own military. Its own currency. Its own passport. By every functional measure, it is a country. But it isn't recognized as one. Only 12 nations in the world maintain formal diplomatic relations with Taipei. The United Nations does not recognize it. Cannot join the World Health Organization. It exists in a deliberate diplomatic gray zone, suspended between sovereignty and erasure. This ambiguity is by design. For 75 years, it has kept the peace by keeping everything undefined. No one says what Taiwan is. No one says what it isn't. And as long as no one forces a decision, the system holds. But ambiguity only works when nobody forces a decision. And someone is about to force that decision. Beijing considers Taiwan a breakaway province. Part of the People's Republic since 1949, even though communist forces have never set foot on the island. The Chinese Communist Party has never ruled out the use of military force to take it. Xi Jinping has gone further than any leader in decades. He has called reunification a historical inevitability. He has said it cannot be passed from generation to generation. That is not a slogan. That is a deadline. The People's Liberation Army now conducts large-scale exercises specifically designed to simulate an invasion of Taiwan. Naval encirclements, live-fire drills, joint operations involving hundreds of aircraft and dozens of warships. Chinese military aircraft cross into Taiwan's air defense identification zone almost daily. In a single 24-hour window, 28 sorties were recorded. The Taiwanese Air Force scrambles so frequently that pilot fatigue has become a defense issue. This isn't posturing. This is rehearsal. In August 2022, after a single congressional visit to Taipei, Beijing fired ballistic missiles over the island for the first time in history. 5 of them landed inside Japan's exclusive economic zone. The exercises that followed effectively encircled Taiwan with naval and air assets, demonstrating, in public, the precise geometry of a future blockade. It was a message. The capability already exists. Only the order is missing. But China isn't the only power with plans for this island. The United States does not officially recognize Taiwan as a country. It has not since 1979. But the same year Washington broke diplomatic ties, Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act. That law requires the United States to provide Taiwan with the weapons it needs to defend itself. Every president since Jimmy Carter has maintained what the State Department calls strategic ambiguity, the deliberate refusal to say whether American forces would actually fight to defend Taiwan. The ambiguity is the deterrent. China cannot rule it out. Taiwan cannot count on it. Both sides remain cautious. But Joe Biden said publicly on 4 separate occasions that the United States would defend Taiwan militarily. Each time, the White House walked it back within hours. The ambiguity is cracking, and both sides know it. Over the last decade, the United States has sold Taiwan more than $8 billion in defensive equipment. F-16 fighter jets, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, advanced radar systems, diesel-electric submarines, Stinger missiles, Javelin launchers. America is arming an island it does not officially recognize, against a country with which it maintains full diplomatic relations. There is no other relationship like it on Earth. And this is where the real danger begins. Because Taiwan is not just another flashpoint. It is the single most important node in the global technology supply chain. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, known as TSMC, produces 90% of the world's most advanced chips. the 5-nanometer and 3-nanometer processors that power every cutting-edge device on the planet. Apple depends on TSMC. Nvidia depends on TSMC. AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom, MediaTek. Every major chip designer on Earth sends their designs to one company on one island. Every iPhone in existence contains a TSMC chip. Every advanced AI server, every Tesla, every modern fighter jet, the F-35, guided missile systems, satellite networks. The most lethal weapons in the American arsenal depend on processors etched in Taiwan. Building equivalent capacity somewhere else would take a full decade and well over $200 billion. The CHIPS Act is funding new fabrication plants in Arizona. They will not match TSMC's leading-edge capability until the 2030s. And even then, the most advanced node will still be made in Taiwan. Right now, there is no alternative. If TSMC stops, the modern world stops. The equipment inside those fabs is itself a choke point. The most advanced lithography machines on Earth are made by a single Dutch company called ASML. Each one costs over $200 million. Each one contains parts from thousands of suppliers across dozens of countries. TSMC operates more of them than anyone else. If those machines are damaged, destroyed, or denied power, there is no quick replacement. The supply chain that underwrites modern civilization runs through a handful of buildings in a handful of industrial parks on one island in the Western Pacific. Some analysts call this the Silicon Shield. The idea that Taiwan's best defense is that destroying it would devastate everyone, including China. Beijing depends on TSMC chips for its own consumer electronics, its own data centers, its own military modernization. But a shield only works if the attacker believes the cost is too high. And that calculation is changing. Military analysts model 3 scenarios for Chinese action against Taiwan. The first is a blockade. Chinese naval and coast guard forces encircle the island. They cut off all imports, all exports, no invasion required. Taiwan imports 98% of its energy, most of its food, almost all of its industrial inputs. A blockade does not need to fire a single shot. It starves the island into submission over weeks or months. The second is precision strikes. Cruise missiles and ballistic missiles targeting military bases, command and control nodes, communications infrastructure, and government buildings. Coordinated with massive cyber attacks designed to paralyze the Taiwanese state. The objective is not occupation. It is political collapse. Force the government to negotiate. The third is full amphibious invasion. The most complex military operation attempted since D-Day. A 130-kilometer ocean crossing under fire against a defending force that has been preparing for this exact scenario for 75 years. Casualties would be measured in the hundreds of thousands, possibly millions. The Taiwan Strait is 130 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. The currents are unpredictable. The weather is hostile. There are only a handful of beaches on the western coast suitable for amphibious landing, and Taiwan has fortified every single one of them for decades. China's amphibious capacity is growing rapidly. New landing ships, civilian roll-on roll-off ferries being upgraded for military use. But most analysts still believe Beijing lacks the lift capacity for a full invasion. A blockade is the most likely scenario, and it is the hardest to respond to. There is a fourth option that rarely makes the headlines. Quarantine, framed as a customs inspection, not an act of war. Chinese vessels stop every ship entering or leaving Taiwanese ports, demanding paperwork, slowing traffic, implicitly asserting sovereignty without firing a shot. It is blockade by bureaucracy. It is an act of annexation performed in slow motion. And under current international law, there is no obvious military response that does not look like the United States starting the war. Because a blockade is not a war. There are no missiles to shoot down, no troops to repel, just ships sitting in international waters, refusing to let other ships pass. What does the United States do? Sail an aircraft carrier through the blockade and dare China to fire? Escort commercial vessels with destroyers? Each option escalates. Each option risks the first shot. And here is what makes each scenario a global crisis. A blockade of Taiwan shuts down TSMC within weeks. Even if the factories survive, the people who run them cannot. Engineers cannot get to work. Supply chains break. The most sophisticated industrial process in human history requires constant input. Cut the inputs and it stops. A global semiconductor shortage begins almost immediately. Far worse than the one in 2020. Car production halts. Phone production halts. Server production halts. The data centers that power the cloud, the AI models, the entire digital economy, all of them depend on a steady flow of new chips. Medical devices, industrial equipment, telecommunications infrastructure, aerospace systems, all affected. Estimates of the global GDP impact range from $2 to $3 trillion in the first year alone. Some models put it higher. The United States would face a set of impossible choices. A military response risks direct war with a nuclear power. Inaction means losing technological supremacy and credibility with every ally in the Pacific. Japan is dependent on Taiwan Strait shipping. So is South Korea. So is the Philippines. So is most of Southeast Asia. Tokyo has already said publicly that a Taiwan crisis is a Japan crisis. Seoul is rearming. Manila has reopened American bases. Insurance markets for the entire region would collapse overnight. Shipping rates would spike. Energy prices would surge. The cascading effects would touch every economy on Earth. This would not be a regional conflict. It would be the largest economic disruption in modern history. If this is the kind of hidden system most people never see, consider subscribing. We break these down every week. And the timeline for this scenario is shorter than most people realize. Multiple American military assessments now identify 2027 as the year by which the People's Liberation Army is expected to reach full operational capability for a Taiwan campaign. Not a deadline, a capability threshold. But here is the deeper pressure. China is running out of time in slow motion. Its working-age population is shrinking. Its property sector is in long-term decline. Foreign investment is pulling back. Economic growth is slowing. Every year that passes, Beijing's relative power compared to the United States and its allies weakens, not strengthens. Meanwhile, the United States is building new chip fabs, strengthening alliances with Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and South Korea, selling more advanced weapons to Taipei. The deterrent is hardening. The window is narrowing. Some analysts call this a use-it-or-lose-it dynamic. The longer China waits, the worse its position becomes. The pressure to act before the option closes forever grows every year. And global crises keep pulling American attention elsewhere. The war in Ukraine, the conflict in the Middle East. When American carriers were repositioned for the Iran war, PLA flights near Taiwan paused, then surged with 28 sorties in a single 24-hour window. Beijing is watching. Beijing is measuring. Beijing is learning what stretches the United States thin. Every year the window narrows. Every crisis elsewhere pulls American forces further from the Pacific. Every quarter the cost of waiting goes up for China, and the cost of acting goes down. This is why military planners now describe the next 3 to 5 years as the most dangerous period in modern Pacific history. Not because war is certain, but because the structural pressure for war has never been higher, and the off-ramps have never been fewer. There is a factory in southern Taiwan. From the outside it is not much to look at. Concrete walls, cooling towers, loading docks, the kind of industrial complex you would drive past without noticing. But inside, machines worth hundreds of millions of dollars are etching circuits smaller than a virus onto silicon wafers. Layer by layer, atom by atom. Those chips are in your phone right now, in your car, in the laptop you are watching this on, in the server that streams your music, in the medical scanner at your hospital, in the missile that defends your country. One factory, one island, 2 superpowers, and no backup plan. That is the most dangerous dependency on Earth. And you are already living inside it.